Yay! It's another Friday night.
We
Woo!
did it.
And Will got a makeover.
Yeah. He grew more hair.
Yes, he did. He grew more hair. He looks a whole lot better. Don't just say that I ever said that. But
Okay, I won't tell anybody.
anyway, everybody, for our regular viewers, Mr. Will Martinez is on vacation. Super jealous. He is in St. Augustine, Florida. Probably, actually, I think, well, it's the oldest establishment, I guess, in the United States. The Fountain of Youth is there. I sure hope he drinks some of that. You could probably send some my way. But anyway, Will's on vacation, so we have Miss Melissa Grubbs with us tonight. Yay, Melissa! So tell everybody.
Second Friday in a row.
I know. Last week was super last minute, so thank you. You're truly a great friend. And anyway, for the people that don't know. Melissa, tell a little bit about yourself and your show, because you have a show that you do Facebook Lives with.
Yes, my guest this past week was none other than Emily. And before I had Bill Davis, and it's just really laid back. It's just, these are people I want to know about. Like, I didn't learn much about Bill. We only made it to his 5-year mark, but I'm going to have him back. But yeah, it's really laid back.
Speaking of Bill, Chief Lynn Paranormal says, "What the frick?"
Hey, Fireball.
Oh yeah, Fireball too. Yeah, Fireball.
So yeah, I mean, I have abilities, and I like learning from others. Like I've said 100 times, I don't agree with everybody, but I always try to learn and take something away. So yeah, and this is my studio. It's not as fancy as Emily's. I'm sitting in front of my couch every week, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But yeah, I love the paranormal. I love the people that make up the paranormal. I just like it. So I want to.
And you're on the Vibe Radio Network as of right now, right? Correct. Yes. So you all can look that up. They have a Facebook page too. I'll post those links to in the chat by the end. So next week we have Josh Bender and Bill Davis again on your show. Bender, I don't have it. I'm going on a paranormal investigation tomorrow. He makes the IR lights are magnificent. I have the demon, which kind of made me nervous.
Yeah.
Well, buying it, but I bought it. Or, well, actually, it was a gift to me from Bill.
No. Well, he's also part of Interface Death, and I think they're at actually MadCon this weekend. So
yes.
But I do have Josh and Bill coming on Wednesday night. And then the week after that, I do believe Doug Malinowski and Chad Cornell are going to come on. A couple of fun guys. They have a show on Paranormal Warehouse, EVPS. So yeah, these are all people that I watch. I enjoy watching, and I just decided the best way, because usually in chat, my question's like, because there's so many in chat. So I'm like,
yes.
You know what? I'm just going to have my own show and just have these people on. So,
well, speaking of watching and things and watching some networks and stuff, really, I went through something personal over the last year, and this is what led me to our guest that's coming on here in a little bit. I'm going to introduce him. But I have always spoken about, if you've watched the shows over the last couple of years, about being an empath. I've said that because I've worked in healthcare field. I've also altar care ministry and prayed with people over the years. And I've always carried the load of others. Mm-hmm. But I have never realized how deep an empath can go. There's several layers, and there's like a super empath, supernova mode, and there's just all kinds of stuff. So when I started going through this personal things that I was going through in May and June, I started looking this stuff on Google and YouTube, and it led me to the guests that we're having on tonight. And I'm so excited. Actually, I'm a little bit nervous, and I hardly ever get nervous with guests anymore. But we have, I'm going to bring him on here in a second. We have Mr. Pete Sapper on. He has a growing YouTube channel called Super Empath or Empath Uprising. We have a actually private Facebook group. So if you're one of my friends, because I'm really picky, I don't know how Pete we'll talk about that here in a little bit, but I'm really picky about inviting the people to this network on Facebook, because it's really a genuine network of individuals that have really good gifts and callings as being an empath or having discernment and things. But Pete has this uprising on YouTube, and I'm going to share that here in a little bit. But he also has a website that we'll be talking about, and I think he started out on Quora, which I believe that I did see some of his questions and stuff on Quora before I ever followed him on YouTube, because some of the stuff he said, I'm like, I know that from somewhere. And then I went back and looked on Quora, and I saved some of the stuff. So without further ado, we're going to introduce the guest tonight, Pete Sapper. He's coming on right now. Hello, Pete. Yay. Thank you so much for coming on the show tonight.
Good evening.
Well, it's tonight for us in Kentucky. Not for you yet.
Right. Well, yeah, the sun's still out, but evening is at hand.
Yes. So thank you so much for taking the time and coming out of the day and talking to everybody about tonight. We're going to get into some important things here in a little bit. But if anybody's watching this video right now, please share it. This helps get the tribe information out to other people. You're not alone in some of the battles that you face. If you're an empath, you feel like you have these special callings or gifts in your life, especially discernment is one of them. Please, you're not alone. Please reach out to us. Ask questions if you want to in this. I'll try to bring up some of them while we do the interview. And please follow Pete. And I'm going to put up your website and your YouTube here shortly. But I talk a lot, and I talk fast. Am I going too fast?
No, you're fine.
Okay, I'm worried because I'm like, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, Pete, before we get started, now we're going to talk a little bit about paranormal here in a little bit, because you said you've had paranormal experiences, but just tell people about yourself, how you got started, how do you started this network of Empath Uprising and things.
Okay, well, I've had a lifelong of experience with pathological narcissists. I was raised by two of them, and that set me up for a lifetime of, like most people who were raised in narcissistic dysfunctional families, that set me up for kind of a lifetime of dysfunctional relationships. And it just so happened that last year, my best friend, who I'd known for 5 years, he showed up at my door one day, was homeless, said he was homeless, didn't tell me why. He'd lost his job, his cars, and his home and all that stuff, and just said he needed a place to stay. So he stayed with me for 5 months, and having lived with the guy, it became very obvious that this was a covert narcissist, the kind of narcissist that nobody ever thought about before. And it was actually very fascinating to me. I'd been with borderlines, I'd been with grandiose narcissists, I've been with a malignant narcissist, but never a covert narcissist. The crazy thing about covert narcissists is underneath all of their false humility and their facade, they are just as grandiose, as abusive, as monstrous, and sadistic, and all that as the grandiose narcissists that we see coming. But they're so damn stealthy. So I started this channel, Empath Uprising, to kind of get people together, because I realized that this was an awakening. My best friend turning into one of these vampires. It was a calling. And then I started getting messages. I started receiving messages that I believe came from the Holy Spirit. And so I just started channeling them through my YouTube channel to an audience, and it's grown so fast. The channel just opened 4 months ago, and we're at 6,500 subscribers now.
Oh, well, it has grown really super fast. And that's what I was going to say. It came in the time where I needed it the most, too. So I guess because the stuff that I was going through was in May and June. So when I started looking everything up on Google and YouTube, you were one of the first people that popped up there. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I relate to that. That's me, that's me, that's me, that's me. And we're going to talk about the different levels of empath here in a few moments. But from where I talk so much, and this is what I do to my normal co-host, to always, Melissa, do you have any follow-up or any questions first before I ask, or anything with Pete?
No, not yet, but I'm sure I will before as we go on.
Melissa is an empath too, Pete. So you're in good company.
Excellent.
So with us, and obviously too, I mentioned earlier, please, if anybody has any questions that are good questions, please ask in the comment section there, and then I will do my best to get to you all. But so going on here with the Empath Uprising, Pete, and I love your ministry and the work that you do. I watch and listen to a lot of them. I wish I could catch more lives, but our time frame is a little bit off. But what is the difference between an empath and a super empath?
Okay, well, a super empath has typically been raised by one or two narcissists or psychopaths. So they've been through real heavy childhood trauma, and as a result of these experiences, and this has happened throughout their childhood, a lot of them through their adolescence, they were typically bullied or stuff like that. And these are people who had to develop an exorbitant amount of durability, of emotional resilience, and of courage to be able to survive these very, very difficult life experiences. So these people grow up with a very distinct set of characteristics. The first one being extremely courageous. Internal locus of control. They're not. These are the empaths that you'll never catch them ever crying like about how they were victimized. You know what I mean? That's the huge difference between an empath and a super empath. The majority of empaths out there, unfortunately, the real ones, not the ones who are, kind of covert narcissists that think they're empaths, which is a majority of the empathic community. But a lot of the other, the empaths are mired in victimhood, and you see that. There's a lot of victimhood in the empath community. And the thing with super empaths is they don't see themselves as victims. They have an internal locus of control. They're masterful manifestors. Whatever they focus on, they create. And so this is really an extraordinary individual. They're intensely loyal, incredibly protective, very justice-minded. Mm-hmm. When they see injustices, they move. They don't sit around and wait for somebody else to do it. There's no bystander effect when a super empath is around. So they're really these exceptional human beings. When H.G. Tudor, the great author,
yes,
the great narcissist author, when he writes so eloquently about the super empath, he talks about what an extraordinary individual this is, and as a result of that type of extraordinary personality, narcissists are very, very highly attracted to these individuals, and so they've had their fair share of tangles with narcissists.
Well, I've come to learn that after I have really truly dealt with the first round. But with the super empath too, can that, for my example, can they claim possibly victim after a while? They don't want to claim that as being a victim. They feel defeated when they say that. But after a while, after they really soak in everything, can they flip over and be like, totally opposite of that? They're not a victim. They're here to help other people.
Well, absolutely. I mean, there's a point where because super empaths are raised in households where their boundaries were not respected, they do go through some of them. I'm not going to speak for all of them. Some of them do go through periods of victimhood. And the thing with there's always a tipping point with the super empath. This is what makes them distinct from other empaths. With the super empath, there's a tipping point, okay, where the abuse gets to a level where the empath says enough is enough, and what we have is a backlash supernova that H.G. Tudor, the great author, writes about. And in that backlash, the super empath is really transformed. They awaken and they understand what type of special, incredibly distinct individual they are. And with that power comes great responsibility, right? And eventually it dawns on them that they do have this incredible responsibility or dharma, and that all the trials and tribulations they've been through were essentially preparations. And what they come to realize, the real dramatic part of all of this is what they come to realize eventually is that their soul was courageous and bold enough to choose to opt into this incredibly difficult life path. That's why and that's the real reason that you don't see victimhood, because there are no victims amongst the super empaths. Right. Our souls opted into this difficult timeline, right?
Yes, I agree with that. Melissa?
So I'm just curious. So do super empaths feel like they need to fix people? Like, just for me, for example, I feel like um, I tend to draw people that are broken or hurting or having a tough time in life, and then I feel like I need to jump in and fix it, like, or fix them or get them on the right path to where they're supposed to be, or try to make things right for them.
Melissa, that's such a great point there. That's absolutely in line with the psychology of the super empath. We're all rescuers. We're all fixers. And as a result, we draw broken people like pathological narcissists, like people with other cluster B disorders, and we draw them like magnets. And we have all of us start out with some level of codependency that's entrained into us. So it's a natural course of action that pathological human beings would see an extraordinary individual with that kind of strength, with that kind of durability, and just be magnetized to them, So yes, we do have a very codependent pathological need to give, to fix, to rescue, and it never goes away. It never goes away. So we've got to be careful of that.
Well, the downside that I found that, I mean, it can literally suck the life out of you. Trying to, carry the weight of your situation in your life, and then you're picking up the weight of someone else. It can physically be exhausting, mentally exhausting. And, there comes a time where, and it feels terrible, but you have to back away and then maybe I find myself trying to revisit it to see if I can continue trying to help finish what I started. But for me, it can be just exhausting all the way around.
Right. Yeah, that's a situation a lot of us find ourselves in. I believe all of us have found ourselves in a situation where we will stay we will stay in an abusive situation with somebody who doesn't want help, and we will pathologically give all our power away. And then, like I said, eventually with super empaths, it reaches a tipping point of supernova, and then it's like enough is enough, and the super empath awakens, and there's no chance for the narcissist at that point. The awakened and empowered super empath, especially in the supernova backlash phase, is like an unstoppable force of nature. You know what I mean? When a super empath awakens, it's just game over for narcissists. There's no competition there.
Well, see, for me personally, sorry, Emily, I didn't mean to.
No, let's go ahead.
Like, I was in an abusive marriage for almost 7 years, and I've had, abusive relationships. But when I get to the point where I'm done, I just walk away. I'm done. It's the end of the show. So, I'm glad, but I see so many that will go right back to it, and I have a hard time understanding that. But I guess, it's something within that it's drained you so much, the situation, that, you're just, that's it. I'm done. And I've walked away from a 13-year relationship that was like that. And it was hard, but, for me, I had to do it for me, because it was literally, I felt like it was killing me inside.
Absolutely. Well, I assume you got to that tipping point where enough was enough, and that was it. Yep. And that's the point where here's the thing. We have several Achilles heels, and one of the massive ones is that we have a rescuer pride, what I call rescuer pride. And it's the pride that I can fix if I just work a little harder, if I just do a little more, I can fix this person. That rescuer pride keeps us locked in situations far longer than we should be. So that's a big Achilles heel for the super empath, just as you described there.
Well, and also too, that's why we stay so long. But you have to ultimately come to the point. Actually, the situation I was in, the individual was like, I'm not going to change. This is how I am. This is how it's going to be. You do all the changing. I'm not changing.
Yeah.
So that once I heard that, then it was like, okay, this is it. But then I was pushed to Supernova Mode, which is what I want to talk about here a little bit. Supernova, for people that don't know, it's kind of like a shooting star where it goes through the galaxy, it explodes, and it doesn't care what path it's in, and it's just going to boom, and then it dies out, and then you're super exhausted and emotionally, mentally drained after that. So Supernova Mode. Now, do you have to be a super empath to go into Supernova Mode?
It is super empaths that go into supernova. It is only super empaths that go into supernova. Empaths and codependents, their option is always escape. They eventually get to a point where codependents will stay to the point where they just malfunction, where they literally, some of them have to be hospitalized because they've fallen into such a ill state of being. Because narcissists, look, being in a pathologically toxic, narcissistically abusive relationship is physically going to drain you. It's going to take years off of your life. You know what I mean? So that's the situation. Most empaths will just get to a point where they just can't take it anymore and they will escape. Super empaths will engage in that, and it's an unconscious situation. It's an unconscious thing that just switches on, and your warrior self state just comes online. That's if we're looking at the internal psychodynamics of a super empath, what they have is a very strong, dormant warrior state that hasn't been realized. And it's the supernova, it's the engagement of the supernova backlash, that tipping point where we say enough abuse is enough, no more. That warrior self state engages fully and the narcissist becomes dead meat. That situation only happens with super empaths.
Do you think that if a super empath exposes a narcissist and their friends are like, this is not your normal behavior, or how you're handling things, it's not you get tons of messages, is that a super empath? Because like when we speak, and from where I've watched your videos before, it's like justice prevails. Like me personally have always taken up for the underdog. Politically speaking, in my town, because I live in a small town, I only had 47 people in my graduating class. There's things that are corrupt, and like I have brought those things to surfaces to a point that it's gotten kind of extreme at times. But I cannot stand injustice, and I cannot stand a liar and a cheater and a thief. And I've said that for years. But I never thought that could be maybe a possible characteristic of a super empath. I don't know if it is, Pete. I mean,
super empaths have 4 core traits. One of them is that they're incredibly justice-minded.
Mm-hmm.
So, incredibly courageous, strong sense of justice, psychic powers, meaning we can see into other people's neurologies, and that when that particular skill is honed, it's unbelievable the kind of damage we can wreak with that, or the kind of healing that we can do with that, And the 4th trait is internal locus of control. Okay, so all super empaths are extremely justice-minded to the point where when they see an injustice happening, they move immediately to correct the situation. So yes, absolutely. To answer your question, strong sense of justice is a central trait of the super empath.
Well, I had an example, and not to take this lightly, but last week my mom's like, did you see this thread on Facebook? They're really attacking this lady, all this stuff. And it's one of our good friends at our family. It's like, of our family. It's known me for 18 years or longer. And I was like, really? I said, send that to me. So I said, this isn't going to happen. I'm sticking up for her. I didn't need to be in that conversation, but I stuck up for her. I made my points, and she was thankful. And actually, there was a resolution at the end with everything. But yeah, what they were saying to her like really bothered me. Like I would not have been able to go to sleep that night unless I interjected.
Absolutely. The other thing is that super empaths are all extremely protective of their own. You know what I mean? That's something you'll never see a pathological narcissist do. They're only interested in their own agenda. You know what I mean? So as despicable as the narcissist is how exceptional the super empath is.
Yeah. I will have your back, but by golly, that narcissist won't have yours whatsoever. None. Never will stick up for you, no matter. Even like I've always said this throughout the years, Pete, and I'm going to let Melissa interject here in a second, but I'll be like, if you're my friend, if you're my family, I will defend you to the end, even if you're wrong. And then if you're wrong, I will come to you and say, listen, I defended you, but you need to make this right because you're wrong. Now, I don't know if that's an empath trait or not, but I am very loyal to the people I surround myself with. And until that loyalty is not given back, and that brings in red flags.
Super empaths are super loyal. And that's why, I mean, that's just one of their core traits that makes them so exceptional. I mean, these are the most exceptional human beings on the planet. They are, they constantly have an impulse to correct, to contribute, to rescue, to correct injustices. And so these are the real social justice warriors. You know what I mean? Not those those fake social justice warriors, the social envy warriors who are out there to destroy status hierarchies and all that stuff and want egalitarianism and all that stuff. These people are truly justice minded. It's not the kind of fake justice that the SJWs out there are after. You understand what I'm saying? They're
Yes.
like the AOCs of the world. Those people. Yeah.
Yes, I totally understand. Even when I'm wrong or in fault, I admit. I mean, I know that I'm probably wrong and in fault, but I admit it to it. Like, yep, I did that. I own it. Not necessarily that means it's right, but sometimes, a lot of times too, me personally, I don't really understand that it's wrong until after the fact a little bit. But Melissa, what about you? Anything resonate with you with that?
Well, I'm just curious how common super empaths actually are. I watch a lot of feeds, and I don't ever discredit anybody, but I'm just are we very rare, or is it more common than one would think?
Super empaths are pretty rare. I mean, you're not going to find a whole bunch of them. Pathological narcissists make up between 1 and 3% of the population, and super empaths would be in that also that percentage rate as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Imagine for every narcissist that's created, there's a super empath that's created. This is the way karma balances itself out.
Spiritual warfare.
There you go.
How I feel like it. Boom.
Although
good versus evil.
Yeah, although in a one-on-one engagement, there's no, it's not a contest.
No.
Yeah. Super empath can't be narcissistically injured. It can't be, we don't have any false self. We're not delusional like the narcissist. So, yeah. And we can be quite psychopathic when we've hit that supernova mode.
Yeah. That's when the proverbial shit hits the fan. But I find I take it and I bottle it up because I'm thinking this person doesn't know what they're doing. They need help. I'm supposed to help them. But then you just get to a point where you just explode. You can't do it anymore. And then for me, it's just easier to walk away and be done.
Right.
And I can't do the fighting. I can't do the yelling. My ex was actually one. He was really loud when he spoke, and I'm like, I'm right here. And this was a relationship, but he always had to be heard over me or anybody. And it couldn't be a conversation. So I would just get to the point of it was no sense in yelling. It was no sense in fighting. I would just walk away. And that would irritate him more because I'd turn my back and walk away. I couldn't do it. And then, I was like, look, we have to fix this. If we can't fix it, I've got to go because you were killing me. I felt like on the inside, every part of me was dying. My sense of humor, my ability to care about other people, the ability to care about myself. I just felt like he was a vacuum and he was just taking it all. So for me, it's just easier to walk away.
And that's the option most empaths take, and they don't fall into dysfunction like codependents do, or like I said, they can get to the point where they'd be hospitalized. Super empaths, like I said, we're very justice-minded. There is going to be a backlash when the supernova tipping point is reached. There's going to be a violent pushback, and I'm not mincing words. I'm not exaggerating. The super empath becomes essentially a factor 2 psychopath, and comes at the narcissist with a sadistic bent, right? To level the playing field and to even the score. You know what I mean? And when the backlash happens, the effect of the narcissist either disengages and runs or suffers a massive narcissistic injury. I have a video out called The Narc Destroyer where I detailed the psychological assassination of my former best friend who turned out to be the covert narcissist. Because the 5 months that he was preying on me, like I said, all of us super empaths have psychic powers. We can see inside the neurology. And I was able to recreate his core trauma, which caused the narcissistic injury so devastating that it induces what's called narcissistic mortification, which is a complete destruction of the false self. Now, that can be a therapeutic thing. It lets the narcissist out from under the slavery of this relentless tyrant, this false self that beats down on the narcissist 24 hours a day. 7 days a week, all the time, which is why narcissists are so completely moody and detached and all that other stuff.
Oh my gosh, super negative too.
Super negative, yeah, because they've got. If you look inside a narcissist psychology, there's nothing in there except this massive inner critic that's just constantly judging and judging and judging them. And they're trying desperately. Their entire life is a struggle to desperately reach the level of grandiosity of their false self, which is obviously impossible. Which is why Sam Vaknin calls pathological narcissism. Sam Vaknin's a narcissist himself. He says pathological narcissism, regardless of what it looks like, is a chronic depressive disorder. They're chronically in a state of depression and trying to fend off toxic shame. So when the mortification is induced, to finish the point, when narcissistic mortification is induced in a therapeutic setting, it frees the narcissist from the false self. But what typically happens with a narcissist like Shallow Sal, my former best friend, what happens is they disengage. They disengage and they go into a mode of collapse. They go into what's called, they become basically what's called a collapsed narcissist. And what they try to do from that point is when they're disengaged, they try to little by little grab little pieces of narcissistic supply to recreate their false self that's been shattered by the narcissistic mortification.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Pete, that was really good. By the way, just saying that. But what they also do too is they kind of, what I've learned, especially with the last couple of years here, is that they never take accountability either, and they always place blame on other people. So that's why it's so hard to get through to the narcissist. If you're an empath, especially, and pick up on these things, it's very hard for them to, or for you. You drain a lot of your energy to try to reach the narcissist in a productive way. But
absolutely,
when you finally go into the supernova mode and you start addressing the narcissist in that supernova, I don't give a blank either mode, does that actually affect the narcissist though? Or are you draining? And I have another question here, Chelsea. She's watching. She's an empath too. I'm going to bring up here in a few moments. I messaged her there. But after this, I'm going to ask Chelsea's question. But is it a good thing to do that towards the narcissist?
Are you? I'm sorry. I need clarification on the question. Are you asking?
Okay.
Is it a good thing?
It's a good thing to do supernova. If you go supernova mode to expose the narcissist, is that a good thing to do?
Well, here's the thing. When supernova is engaged, when supernova is really engaged, it's an unconscious process. Right. And the super empath isn't really in control of this. They literally become, their inner psychopath becomes unleashed. They become disempathic. We become disempathic. As empathic as we were, we go to the opposite pole. our empathic traits dim to nothing, down to nothing, and our psychopathic traits, H.G. Tudor says it's narcissistic traits that come to the forefront.
Yeah.
No, it's psychopathic traits that come to the forefront. Jordan Peterson talks about this when he discusses the Carl Jung's repression and shadow work and all that stuff. When the shadow is unleashed, especially in an empath, a super empath, because they've been through so much trauma, has a deeply repressed dark core. And when that is unleashed, it's merciless. It's like literally merciless. So is it good? I believe, because I'm a super empath to the core, that justice needs to be served. Absolutely. But that's a judgment, though. That is a judgment. And somebody else might not agree with that. Okay, so that's really my subjective judgment that, yes, because I'm a super empath and very justice-minded, absolutely I want to whoop somebody's rear end.
Well, just an example of me over the years, I would always say, listen, I can go to a point where you don't want me to care. Don't push me there. Do not push me. Do not put me there, because once I go there, I can't snap back from that. Is that a characteristic then?
Well, I mean, basically what you got to the point is where you're just going to shut down, and basically it's essentially you're going to gray rock the person. And when narcissist senses that they're losing control, that really bothers them as well. It's not anything like the supernova backlash, which crushes the narcissist, but it definitely has a negative effect on the narcissist, what you're talking about. Because they react, they energize. What energizes them is our emotional reaction. That's why people do gray rock when they have to, when they're forced to coexist with a narcissist. That's why when they go gray rock, because if you literally address the narcissist like an emotionless robot, it bothers them to the narcissist needs to feel alive. He needs your emotional reaction to feel alive. Mm-hmm. So when you give him none. Yeah, when you give him none, he's first of all, he's very, very angry. He doesn't like that at all, and because he realizes that he's not having an effect on you. And in the psychology of the narcissist, if they can't see themselves having an effect in the world, they feel like they don't exist because they have no self, they have no core identity. They suffer from what's called identity disturbance or identity diffusion, and so their false self can only exist insofar as it is inflicting damage or some type of effect on the world, positive or negative. Narcissist doesn't care. They need that effect to feel alive. So you're robbing them of that fuel. You're robbing them of that supply when you go gray rock and when you just shut down emotionally.
Well, I know, like when I've gone supernova, there's this insane amount of guilt after because that's not, and I've even said that's not me. That's not right. It's just, but when you reach that point, I mean, and you do give that warning, okay, it's got to stop or I'm going to explode. And I mean, and I've exploded before, even the 13-year relationship. And then when I did leave is when he realized the error, or so he said, the error of his ways. But, and he wanted back in, and I wouldn't do it. When I'm done, I'm done. It's just, you had your opportunity.
I said that too.
And, and the big thing is for me, he didn't realize he was wrong ever. Everything was always flipped on me. And even if I'm like pointed it out, like logically in a calm way, step by step, what had happened, he cheated, but it was my fault. I wasn't even there, so they don't see, and that's the bad part. They're never wrong, and they don't see that there's anything wrong with them.
Well, they can't be wrong, because if they're ever wrong, it causes a narcissistic injury to the false self. Anytime you separate the narcissist from his delusion of him being this perfect, flawless, false self, you cause a narcissistic injury. Okay, a narcissistic injury happens anytime the narcissist is removed from the delusional, state that they live in. So that situation, that they can't take responsibility, they can't apologize, they can't say that they were wrong because it causes a narcissistic injury. You know what I mean? So narcissists are put in this little box They're put in this little box. That's why they're so predictable. The behavior is so predictable, right? Their responses are so predictable. So once you understand the psychology of a narcissist, I mean, it's game over. You could hurt, harm, and damage them. You can wreck them. And I understand what you were talking about is there's a sense of guilt after the supernova backlash. It is that way for empaths. It's not so that way necessarily for super empaths because we are so justice-minded. That core trait mitigates the guilt afterwards. You know, we feel like justice was served.
Not to that point then. Right now in my own personal struggle over the last several months. But I do have a really great question from Chelsea Dene here in the chat. Has there been any links to super empaths in certain blood types?
Is that a question for me?
Yes. Or I haven't heard of anything like that, but that's an interesting topic.
I don't have that information right now.
Yeah. That'd be really super interesting to know.
Yeah, I haven't received that information. All the information that I have about the super empath, I'm literally the first person who's gone into depth about the psychology of the super empath, and all of that was channeled from the Holy Spirit. That's where I got that information from the Holy. It doesn't exist anywhere else. And there's so many people out there who resonate with that psychology or that structure of a human being that I put together, and they're like, man, that is so completely on the money. So I haven't received that specific information, but I will certainly be open to receiving it.
I'd be really interested in seeing that too. But other than Super Empath, I see here, I have your YouTube page up here. So please, everybody, please subscribe to his YouTube, Empath Uprising here. You do weekly live chats and things too, and talking about all these different topics of actually bettering yourself and the empath, super empath, narcissism stuff. But I hope I say this correctly. I am Kentucky, so I have a little accent here, but Heyoka empath.
Heyoka's right.
Heyoka.
Yeah.
Heyoka.
Heyoka. Yeah. Heyoka is a super empath, but a very specific one. They have very distinct traits. So they're a little bit different than a standard super empath, and they've been through they've suffered a lot. You know, they've suffered a lot more than any other empath. They've been through so much trauma, and their life has been extremely difficult. And they have a dharma that is undeniable. They literally can't break their covenant with God. They have a covenant with God that needs to be executed. And they can feel that in their soul.
Oh, I believe that too. I've listened to some of your videos over. I don't relate to it all that greatly myself. Super empath is what I relate to the most, which I never heard of ever before. I started listening to your videos and things, and then there's been some other people that T on NPD.
Yeah, we love
her.
We love T. She's my favorite.
Yes, she is awesome. So she talks about it. There's been some people that's trickling down and talking about some of this thing that you're talking about. I think it resonates with a lot more people than well, I've never thought of it before. So the Holy Spirit gave you a clear message to give to other people, and it's growing and it's awesome and it's amazing. And there is a tribe, which is the first time I ever heard of the term tribe in the empath or super empath or any of that mode. So there's a tribe that we are all here to support each other, and start here with Mr. Pete Sapper, especially follow him on YouTube. And then we have the Facebook. Let's see, I do think I have the Facebook here. Do I? No, I don't have the Facebook. There's a Facebook group page too. So please, if you want to be part of that, ask to join or message me, and I'll help you message Pete or message Melissa, because Melissa, I sent you a request today, didn't I?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, to join.
I joined.
Yes.
Chelsea actually has another question for you.
Okay.
It says, how does a super empath move forward in having a love life away from narcissistic people? Is it possible?
Okay, you have to clarify that question. Can one of you two clarify that question?
So
it means.
so what she is asking, how do empaths have a love life with people that are not narcissistic? Is it
It seems like we draw a lot of narcissism in.
Right. I've got a training series on this. I addressed this last week of why it is that we attract narcissists. We are narcissist magnets, and psychopath magnets and histrionic magnets. You know, we are the cluster B magnets because, like I said, we have all the traits that they look for. How do we do it? Well, the first thing we do is we understand our vulnerabilities, and I detail this in my video series, the Super Empaths Kryptonite. We have to learn what our weaknesses are that get targeted by pathological people. Once we understand what our core weakness is, the wounds in our inner child, our hyperactivated attachment system, you know, we get attached to people really quick. Once we understand our weaknesses and we can understand how the narcissist gets through us, and the narcissist always gets through to us with the love bombing the inner child.
Yes.
And that love bombing gets directly into the wounds of the core wounds of the inner child. And that's why they attract us, they magnetize us. So they literally give us in the love bombing phase everything that we were denied in childhood, you know. All the validation and approval and admiration and adulation and acceptance and, you know, you're perfect and all this other stuff. You're finally being appreciated for, you know, who you are. Of course, it's all a facade. It's all a fraud, right? Everything about the narcissist from top to bottom is a complete fraud.
Oh, yeah.
So how do we do it? We take it slow, and we go to the Empath Uprising channel, and we look at the video series about why empaths. I just put one up today. Why empaths fall for narcissists. And there's another video that I did last week. Why empaths fall for love bombing. So I've detailed it very, very clearly there. Exactly what we need to do. How to enact what I call defiant self-care when we're in the midst of a predatory individual. To enact bulletproof boundaries, okay? To really enact our boundaries. See, our boundaries are porous and undefined and weak, and that's just the open door for predators, right? So I detail all this in my video, Bulletproof Boundaries, in my video, Why Empaths Fall for Narcissists, and my video, Why Empaths Fall for Love Bombing. And that a lot of it is also in the Super Empath Kryptonite video. So to answer your question, it's all there on the channel of Empath Uprising.
Yes, here on YouTube, and I've watched probably most of all of these. Actually, probably at least 95% of them. If I haven't, I've probably only missed like 3 or 4 of them. But really quickly, because we have about 8 minutes left or so. Now, we did speak about in the beginning about empaths having like psychic abilities and things like that. Now, before we went live tonight, you said that you had a paranormal experience. Anything showing up?
Yeah, I did. The way that I started to becoming aware that I had this power of channeling, and the crazy thing is, I never set out to become a channel or anything like that. I literally started feeling these energies being channeled through me, and so now I had recently rented an apartment on the other side of this town, and the apartment was brand new. It had just been renovated. It was a beautiful apartment, but there was something really, really dark, and there's some heavy dark energy in there, and it would come out when I would shoot videos. Last year I had a different channel where I would be coaching men in confidence. I'm a confidence coach, so. And this dark entity would come through me, and it would say in a very decisive manner, in a very foul languaged manner, in a manner that wasn't like me at all. It would basically give, I don't know, some type of direction or directive to men to become more psychopathic like. You know what I mean? To because the dark entity was saying that women love psychopathic traits, and unfortunately, that's actually right.
I think it's right. Yeah,
they're attracted to dark triad traits. So this dark entity was speaking through me, and I have actually videos of it where you can see it's not me at all. This is a different human being, but it's being channeled through me, and very, very dark energy. And the name that I got was David, so I just call him David Dark. Since I've moved out of that apartment, I haven't felt that energy again. So it was definitely a locational thing that spirit was inhabiting that place. And what I found out from my friends who've lived here their whole lives in this part of California is that they'd said that there was a woman that practiced Santeria or some type of black magic there, and she'd been living there for years. So who knows what the association is, but that was it. It was I want to say it was terrifying, but it wasn't terrifying. You know what I mean? It wasn't necessarily. Super empaths are incredibly courageous. They're very, very, very fearless. You know what I mean? It takes a lot to get us scared. So it was just, I was so excited by the situation, this idea that I could channel something that wasn't mine. It was going through me. So right now I'm really, really a bad amateur channel, and still the Holy Spirit speaks through me when it wants to. I don't really have any control over it. But yeah, that was my experience. I channeled an entity named David, and I called him David Dark because he was very, very, very psychopathic.
I'm going to message you after this.
Yeah.
I can't talk about it right now.
Are you able to read people? Like when you meet someone, are you able to pick up things about them?
Within seconds, yeah.
Okay.
Within seconds, I'll know what their insecurities are, what they're trying to hide, all that stuff. And this is the reason why, and this happens with all Heyoka empaths. When we meet people who have an agenda or have something to hide, they get the hell out of our way. They don't stick around. They somehow know that we can see through their mask, that we can see through their facade. Heyokas are incredibly finely tuned. All super empaths have these psychic powers, but Heyokas seem to have them to a degree where they can actually, I don't know, map another human being's neurology from top to bottom and do it in an instant. And Heyokas are almost, Heyokas are so rare. Everybody and their mommy's claiming to be a Heyoka now because the Empath's Refuge made it sound like it's a cool thing. It's not a cool thing. It's not a fun thing. We go through dark moods, depressive episodes.
Yeah.
We get through really, really bad circumstances thrown at us, and it's all to toughen us, to toughen us up into these durable machines that are able to execute our contract or covenant with God. So I'm so sorry I lost track of the question because
that's okay. It's all making sense. We have about 3 minutes left. We do have a show after our show now, so I'm gonna have to start cutting this out. But Pete, really, honestly, just on a personal level, your videos and things helped me at a time where I needed it the most, and where I started discovering things that I didn't know even existed. And I'm thankful that you have allowed the Holy Spirit and God to use you to those levels, to bring awareness to the gifts and callings that some people have that are not aware that they have those. And we have a lot of things going on through our comments and stuff. So a lot of people are going to start checking you out on YouTube. And then where I mentioned earlier, too, about the Facebook group chat, it's a really great group of people there that to support each other. So you're not alone in this. If you're battling, it's good versus evil. If you're battling evil, or you think you're battling something that is something that you've never experienced before, because it's something I never experienced before. There's people out there that's here to help you. And Pete Sapper and the Empath Uprising is definitely a great group to get involved. You got to be cautious with a lot of these videos and stuff on YouTube too. I've come to learn. Please dabble into your gift of discernment on some of these people, especially if it's I don't know if I should. That's too much to go into right now. But you can watch one of Pete's videos too. I'm sure Pete, you talk about it. I heard it a long time ago. Talk about one of them. Not an individual in specific, but some of these people on YouTube don't have your best heart at interest. So it's all about views and money and things like that. But I'm telling you, Empath Uprising truly has helped me and opened up my mind and my heart to things that I didn't know existed. So Pete, thank you so much for your time and effort and being on the show tonight. And hopefully we'll probably have you on again in the future too, talk about this subject, because it's an uprising. The Great Awakening, by the way, is, I don't know if you know this, the hashtag, it has been blocked on Instagram.
The Great Awakening?
Yep, The Great Awakening. Hashtag has been blocked
Yeah, okay.
on
Well,
Instagram.
yeah.
So
Well,
Here we go with the censorship.
For me, I actually went and followed your YouTube page while we were talking, and this has been incredibly just interesting because I always thought I was the only one that reacted the way I reacted or acted the way I acted or taking in everybody broken and trying to fix them. I thought it was just me. I had no idea it was a much deeper thing. So for that, I thank you. And my mom, I'm gonna watch probably a video, maybe 2 tonight, before bed. I definitely could talk for hours with him, but
well, Pete, you need to go on Melissa's show. She needs some people. So Pete, that's the next one, Melissa. Get Pete on.
I would love to have him on.
I just want to say thank you, everybody, for showing up. Pete, thank you for being an awesome, amazing guest and your talent. Next week, we're going to be live again at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Spooky Babes, Stormy Daniels, and John Bullard. Yay! I'm so excited. So, Pete, I'm going to message you after here shortly. Please stay tuned, stay live here on Paranormal Warehouse. We have a really gifted talent person after the show that does tarot card readings. Please follow him. And Melissa Grubbs, always thank you so much for coming on, being a co-host. Awesome co-host tonight. So everybody have a great night. Happy Friday. Thank